Mark McCarthy here from Bold&Break. I am delighted to be back with a new video on Cinema 4D. This video will be showing you how to optimize your performance a bit better while also improving your quality of life and experience while using Cinema 4D. We're going to be focusing on the viewport and how you can use the viewport to gather more information about your scene and how to optimize Cinema 4D to be a little bit faster. Without further ado, let's get started on this. So I've used this scene from the asset browser. It's the living room in the latest version of Cinema 4D. And I also want to make you aware that I have my shading on. The reason I have my shading on is it's important to sometimes see how your topology is working in your scene, especially if it's complex animations. The first thing we want to do is get rid of these save frames that we have. You'll see they're on by default in Cinema 4D. To do that, you press Shift V and you select the save frames tab, and you can just turn them off or on. You also have options here to change these, which can be very helpful with save frames if you're have any constraints or anything that you want to work within. And the next thing I want to make you aware of is the HUD, and HUD stands for heads up display. It can give you an array of information in your display port here. So you can see here that we have polygon selected and that we actually currently have this pillow selected, and this is handy because it tells us the amount of polygons within this pillow, which is really helpful. We're going to go back to our options here and we can just click this lock element. So if we select another object, it doesn't take us out of this attributes menu for the viewport. If I was to untick polygons, you'll no longer see that when you select your object. Let's also put on viewport statistics. This tells you the overall amount of triangles in your scene, which is good to know because the more triangles, the more polygons, the longer it will take to render. The next bit of information that could be quite helpful to you is the frames per second, which appears back down here. This will be lower if your scene is heavier. That is the amount of frames per second that the viewport can display. Played any video games before, you'll know that frames per second is a big measurement of performance. So this information can be quite helpful, especially if you don't know what's going on in your scene, or your scene's slow, or you just need to know for precision and accuracy what's going on in your scene. So the next area of the viewport settings I want to bring your attention to is the view here. This will allow for some quality of life improvements. So you'll see here when I zoom out, it hits the wall. It's a bit annoying, but if I put on X-ray, and I have my room selected, so it's only going to apply to what's selected. You can see through it. So if I select the couch, you can see this X-ray. If this X-ray is on, it allows me to see through it, which is great if you're modeling or topology. Backface culling is another good one. So if I'm going through the couch, just turn off the X-ray, you'll see that it culls basically the back face of the geometry, whereas if that is off, you're kind of stuck in the geometry. It's like, where am I? So stuck in the couch. That's where you are. It's the story of my life. And then the next area, which is probably where you're going to see your performance improve, is effects. Now if I switch that off, you'll see it kind of turns off all the effects, the reflections, the diffuse textures. I also get more frames per second. You could also do this up here in your options. Turn this off. Also turn off materials. So when you turn off materials, no materials are displayed in the viewport, which will speed up performance. So that is something to be very aware of. The next thing we want to do to improve performance is press Control E, and we want to go into our viewport hardware. We could turn all these down and the edges won't be as sharp. So you'll see here, we get a little bit more jaggedness. You can also turn down your default resolution. If we turn that up, you will see that will increase the quality of the textures within our viewport when they are displayed. So this will all help your performance, and you can maybe not worry so much about what's going on in here and worry about what's going on maybe in your external render like Redshift or Octane. We have been only changing the parameters, information and settings of one viewport. You can actually apply different settings and different parameters to each individual viewport, which is quite handy. If you want to have the same information and same settings across all viewports, what you want to do is you want to select view and go down to configure all. And this will basically apply this to all your viewports. So like, for instance, you will now see what camera is selected in each viewport. You will now see the points in each viewport, which is quite cool because then you can just set to all your parameters, especially if you're like modeling in here. You want to make sure you're hitting the mark with your poly count and all that kind of thing. If you want to do it with a shortcut, it's here. It's Alt V. So again, Alt V. Important to remember that yes, your perspective view is still rendering information. It's not rendering a lot of complex information, but it's still taking some processing power from your PC. So if you want to get that right down, it's important to maybe bring down the settings to that. That can improve your performance. If we go back into our preferences by pressing Ctrl E, you will see a little nose here. If you experience viewport instabilities, hold down Ctrl plus Shift while launching the application to activate minimum viewport settings. I've done this many times. I find it in Octane more. If I'm using Octane, I will actually use that option because I know Octane can be a bit fragile sometimes if you have anything else rendering in your viewport. I hope this is helpful. Please let me know in the comments below. And please like and subscribe, all those good things. I'll be out with a new video very soon. Thank you for watching and goodbye.